Welcome into the show, everybody. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, MyBookie.ag. It's wonderful to have you along for a ride. My name is Mark Farzy. This little program we like to do called the Farzy Show. Eagles are back at practice today. Nick Sirianni set to address the media. Jalen Hurts is set to address the media. Of course, they got the Monday night game. Everything's pushed back a little bit more of an extended bye week. We had the mini bye week earlier in the season with that horrible New York Giants game following that one, of course, and then winning back-to-back games before now taking on the Packers on Monday night. So you had the mini bye. Now you got the mega bye. So that's fun. I have a really good feeling, and it really has a lot to do with the trade deadline. And for a team that didn't make the big splash, that didn't make the huge acquisition, the biggest name out there, I have a really good feeling about the second half of this season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I was already feeling like that. And then I heard our boy Jaws talk about how the Eagles are set up to run the table. The Packers have struggled as of late. The Lions just don't look like a team that wants to be dominant this season, so not the threat that we might have thought they were at the beginning of this season. The Dallas Cowboys just, They really do suck. Like, I know every year we say it, but it's fun when it's really true. It's not just what we wish. They really do suck. So you're just talking about the first 3 games out of this bye week where you're going to be a better football team. And I know you had a game against the Giants that you did everything you were supposed to do, but you didn't play down to your opponent in that game. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. The passing game looked good. The run game looked fantastic. And now you feel like you have a good dual threat coming out of the backfield. Still very much Saquon Barkley's show, but all I need from a backup running back, in this case Tank Bigsby, is to be what Kenny Gainwell was, and I think Bigsby can be that, in this Eagles offense last year. Because there were spurts through last season where Saquon Barkley was getting his rest. It's hard to just break off 60-yard sprints every game. But throughout, you'd see Kenny Gainwell sprinkled in, and he'd come in and he'd get you 10 yards. He'd come in and get you 13 yards. He'd come get you a 16-yard run. He would come in and not only make sure that the offense stayed on pace, but he also made sure that the run game stayed a threat, even when Saquon Barkley was out of the game. Now, a big part of that, of course, was the offensive line cooking last year. We'd love to see what that offensive line would do this year. But that's something that the Eagles, I hope, are really cracking the code of. And you need a healthy Cam Jurgens to do it. You need a healthy Landon Dickerson to do it. And if you don't, you need Brett Toth as your first guy off the bench for an interior offensive lineman to go out there and do exactly what he did against the Giants. That's a good get-right game against the Giants. It's a great game to go into the bye week, feeling good about yourselves, still realizing that you got some other problems you got to solve here on this Eagles team. But you have a new bar set for how good you can be against another NFL team. I feel really good about the second half of the season. And again, it goes back to the trade deadline. The Eagles needed somebody to come in and help them in the run game. The Eagles needed somebody to help them get after the quarterback. Jalen Phillips is that guy. And not only has he been that guy in his career, despite the 2 years of being banged up previous to this one, he's doing this now with a pretty solid interior defensive line. So now you're asking him to get after the quarterback with the guys that we've talked about all week, Moro Ajomo and Jalen Carter in the middle of this line of scrimmage, who have had some good years here, have good years together this season. And now you're asking them also to be able to come in and stop the run, something that the Eagles have struggled in a huge way against this season. That one player, I feel, makes a big difference. Then you also factor in even more of Cooper DeJean on the outside. You bring in Michael Carter, a guy that you know can play the position. He's not going to be a problem. I'll just say that. He's also not going to be Cooper DeJean in the nickel spot, but I think he's going to be more than serviceable, which is more than you could say for anybody else that can be playing outside corner other than Cooper DeJean. So I think your defense looks a lot better. And then let's not forget, and I don't like acting like these guys are acquisitions, and I hate it in any sport when any GM says, oh, we're getting a healthy guy back around the trade deadline. So, that's like an acquisition. No, it's not. It's like when a quarterback makes a dumb mistake on a third and long. It's like, oh, well, that was like a punt anyway, so that's fine. Yeah, you know what? Though with a punt, though, a punt is a punt and a pass is a pass. If there's a better play on the field, make that better play. I hate that excuse. I hate the excuse of a GM saying, oh, well, it's around the deadline. We're getting these guys back healthy, so we'll be good. No, you knew you were going to get them back healthy. You knew what the timeline was, even though Nick Sirianni and company will never talk about it, and I don't fault him for that. I get it. But you just got Nakobe Dean back. You're going to be getting Nolan Smith back with the window open. I've said it many times when I talk about Brandon Graham. He's certainly not going to be a savior, but he is still going to be an upgrade about what you were previously doing from what you were previously doing at the edge rusher position that far down the depth chart. So I feel pretty good about all this. The defense certainly needs to step up its game from what you saw so far in the first half of this season. They need to get a hell of a lot closer to what they were doing last year. And the offense needs to find that consistency. And as I said, this Giants game that they played 2 weeks ago now, we hope that right there is the get-right game where the Eagles did get it right, and maybe that's the turning point. Maybe not the bye week is the turning point. Maybe not the Giants game, the first one where they got their asses handed to them. Maybe that's not the turning point. Maybe the turning point was being able to beat the Vikings. Maybe it was able to blow out the Giants. Maybe it was different adjustments you made during the bye week to make you a better football team, whether that be involved with the trade deadline, connected to the trade deadline, or whether that be what you're doing in the film room to make this a better squad. So I have a really good feeling about this Eagles team in the second half of the season, and I feel a lot more confident than I did really, other than the opener, at any point this year. Even before they lost to the Denver Broncos, there was just, all right, guys, the finding a way to win thing needs to go away. I go to it every time. The way the Eagles fell apart and had that historic collapse in 2023, that whole we're finding a way to win thing through every game, that can't be it, because your day of reckoning is coming. And I don't want to look back after this season, after the regular season's over, and be like, well, the Eagles just found ways to win. Because, that's exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs thought when they got blown out. Now, their day of reckoning came in the Super Bowl. The Eagles' days of reckoning came in the final 7 weeks of the season when they only won once, including the playoffs. So that was a little different. I'd rather lose it in the Super Bowl, I guess. But I want to see this team hit their stride, and I want to see this team be on the same page. Now, like I mentioned, Nick Sirianni is going to address the media today. Hey, more Eagles coverage, by the way, from me and the Eagles Squad on Locked On Eagles Squad show coming up a little later today, noon, as a matter of fact. Jason Martinez, Harry Mays, Louis DiBiase, and yours truly breaking it down in the post-bye week run as it begins this week, or Monday, rather. The guy's back at the NovaCare Complex today. I really have a problem with the Philadelphia 76ers right now. And it's, look, after the way they lost to the Chicago Bulls, I didn't have great expectations for last night against the Cleveland Cavaliers. After the way they blew a 24-point lead, after the way they got dominated in the second half, after they just looked like they were cooked in that fourth quarter, especially the final 6 minutes where they couldn't make a field goal, I was like, this game against the Cavs, not going to go well. I know the Cavs aren't exactly gangbusters, but they're a pretty damn good regular season team, that's for sure. I didn't expect them to win this game last night. I didn't think that they were – I still had trouble wrapping my head around it when I was talking about it live on yesterday's show. They were 9.5-point underdogs going into last night's game. Well, those guys, as per usual, they know what they were doing. Sixers lost by 11. They trailed by as much as 26. And they would have these little spurts of energy. Now, around the 7-minute mark of the first quarter, Adembona had a turnover. Tyrese Maxey, I believe, had 4 turnovers in that first quarter. But Adembona had a turnover around that 7-minute mark, goes the other way, three-pointer. Cavs go up 17-4. And he went, oh, the Sixers aren't going to find that gear. This is going to be a lot of what you saw in the second half against the Bulls, with these guys just dragging up and down the court. Maxey in the first quarter had 4 turnovers. He had 4 points. That ain't good. And then all of a sudden in the second quarter, they came alive. They actually made a game of it in the second quarter. In the second quarter, they actually outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers by 11 points. They actually put up 40 points in that second quarter. Maxey had 14 of them. All right, things are trending in the right direction. Early going in the third quarter, the Sixers actually tie the game at 72. And they're like, okay, maybe they found that other gear. Maybe they found that gear that they found in their, 4 of the 5 other wins they've had this season. where all of a sudden in the third quarter, they just lay an egg. Fourth quarter, they're on fire. They can't help but throw the ball through a hoop. It's amazing. But that's not how this one went. They tied the game at 72 early in the third quarter. And then from that point on, in the third quarter, it was about the 10-minute mark of the third, the Cavs go on a 35-15 run. 35-15 run. That's hard, but the Sixers defense made it look easy. And the Cavs throwing everything up and everything going in also made it look pretty easy. Fourth quarter, they had another push, but that flamed out. And in the fourth quarter, I was wondering, they're down 23 points in the early stages of that fourth quarter. It was 123-100 with 7 minutes remaining. I would have gotten Tyrese Maxey the hell out of there. Tyrese Maxey, I believe, is leading the league in minutes played. VJ Edgecombe is up there. Kelly Oubre is up there. These are a lot of minutes for these guys. And I know it's early in the season. I get it. But the 8th game of the year, really the 7th game of the year, the second half of the 7th game of the year, you're dragging the way you were against the Bulls. 2 out of 4 quarters against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second leg of a back-to-back and the 8th game of the season. For a team that showed up 2 weeks early and was getting in shape and was running practices and was doing all this before training camp and all that. These guys are already this tired. Don't like that. Don't like it one bit. 7 minutes to go. You're down 23. Get them the hell out of there. Just, hey, this is a loss. Take it on the chin and move on. Now, from that point on, it was Trendon Watford actually ended up knocking down a 3. Sixers go on a little run. They end up making it a 9-point game, as a matter of fact, with 1 minute and 6 seconds left on the clock. Yeah, I still would have pulled these guys. Now, around this time is when Maxey actually did finally get pulled. I think it was Donovan Mitchell went to the line, knocked down a couple free throws, and at that point, Nick Nurse was like, okay, I can get him out. Nick Nurse did this in Toronto, and he's doing it again in Philadelphia, where he just drives guys into the ground. I would have loved to have seen in the final 7 minutes Hunter Salas come in and get some run. I would have loved Eric Gordon to come in and get some run. I would have loved Kyle Lowry to come in and get some run. I would have loved to see VJ Edge come out of this game. I would have loved to see Tyrese Maxey out of this game, even Kelly Oubre. You're down 23.7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Call it, please. Your team has already shown you in the second half against the Bulls that they're done. They're done. They're cooked. Give them a break. Now, I will say that I do love the fight. I do love that Maxey even said last year, before they shut him down, by the way, he had 2 hand injuries last year. Finger injury, and I think a thumb injury, a wrist injury, something like that. And he fought through it last year, and he kept playing. And then finally, about 21, 23 games left, they were like, all right, you're done. Needs done. And right around that time is when Maxey said, and everyone was talking about tanking to keep the pick and all that stuff, finish in the worst 6 in the league and keep your pick and all that. And Maxey flat out said, if you're playing me, I'm going to win. I'm going to try to win. Like, I'm not going out there and trying to lose. So if you don't want to win, or if you don't want to win, don't play me. Because I'm out there to win. So Maxey, true to his word, 7 minutes to go. Last night's game, he's still out there. He's still battling. He's still hustling. I still would have rather seen him gotten a break, especially when you're, again, down 23 points in the fourth quarter of a game that your team just clearly didn't have it. And when they had these little spurts, they had these little runs throughout the game to make a game of it, and then all of a sudden they would just go away. So I know a lot of people on social media, myself included, we were looking at the game last night, and we're like, we're thinking, when's he going to get these guys out? Is Tyrese Maxey being punished? Or he's just going to play more minutes than anybody in the NBA? And look, I hate that I'm even talking about this, but this is the way the game is now, where guys get coddled. Nobody's playing 82 games, and it's terrible. But this is the way the game's played now, and it's early in the season. These guys clearly showed you that they didn't have it. And I know you cut the lead to 9 with a minute left, but well before that, it was time to pull them. So after the game, as upset as I am about the loss and as upset as I am about losing the back-to-back games to the Bulls and Cavs, I have more of a problem with what Nick Nurse had to say. Because, look, you're going to lose games. You're going to lose back-to-backs. You're going to have games where the guys just don't have it. But this philosophy really got to me, and I didn't like it one bit. Here's Nick Nurse after the game when he was asked about potentially pulling starters when they were down 23 points in the fourth quarter.
I did. Yeah, for sure. We were considering it, and then we kind of just made a run back with a couple minutes to go to get it down to, I think, 10 or 11 or 9 or something like that. And I don't know. We're in a stage right now where I'm way more in the, we got to continue to show fight. You know, I told you from the beginning, like, we're trying to dig ourselves out of some stuff from last year, right? And the attitude and the fight and all that stuff needs to be something that we got to continue to establish, right? And once we started making a little run there, I was not going to pull the plug on that run until it was time. And it just and to be honest with you, I'm glad we left them in. I'm proud of the way they played to try to continue to fight.
Yeah, they fought. The thing that got me in there was we're trying to dig ourselves out of what went on last year. Listen to that part.
I did. Yeah, for sure. We were considering it, and then we kind of just made a run back with a couple minutes to go to get it down to, I think, 10 or 11 or 9 or something like that. And I don't know. We're in a stage right now where I'm way more in the, we got to continue to show fight. You know, I told you from the beginning, like, we're trying to dig ourselves out of some stuff from last year.
That part I got a problem with. You might think that sounds novel. You know, good for them. They're acknowledging how terrible last year was. I'm over it. I have a new basketball team now. I have Tyrese Maxey at the helm. I have a very promising rookie in VJ Edgecombe. I got a team that I know is going to hustle their asses off. They're going to give you what they got. Maxey and Edgecombe and Oubre. I mean, they really don't have it in them to do anything else. I know Oubre lollygagged it a little bit last year, got called out by Joel Embiid. But these guys in no way, shape, or form are just going in there and tanking it, like the team last year, unfortunately. There is no amount of good that Nick Nurse or the Sixers could do this year to make us look back at last year and go, worth it. Like, no. Like, you're not going to right the wrongs of a whole process era in one season. I mean, hey, look, I really like watching the Sixers team. Even the last 2 games. Like, these are going to happen, unfortunately. It doesn't mean you have to like it, but you have to know that, you know, sports are weird, and sometimes stuff like this happens. But if you're trying to right the wrongs of last year in this season, I think that is a huge mistake. One of the things I actually really liked about the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles this year, is how much they're discrediting or not acknowledging their Super Bowl victory from a year ago. Like, every single year you hear a team like, last year was last year, this year, it's a totally different year, it's a different team, and blah, 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 different schedule, blah, blah, it's all different. And you're like, okay, that's the speak that they have to give you. But the Eagles were acting like last year's Super Bowl was a giant inconvenience to them. That was the way they were acting. And something about that is to be admired. You're not going to try to ride last year's success into this year because this is a different year. It's the same thing with the 76ers. I don't want them riding last year's failures and then trying to play catch up to how terrible they were last year and have that affect the way they coach or play this year. Like, I don't want this team thinking they could have one good year and make up for last year. Like, that's way too much to ask of a team to, you know, bend time and make up for last year. This is its own isolated season. The only thing that you can look at and go, oh, well, they played so terrible last year, they got VJ Edgecombe, and this looks good. This looks good. Okay, fine. That I get. But we're trying to dig ourselves out of what we did last year. Dude, you're not going to tack these wins onto last year. That's asking way too much of this team. And yeah, proud of your guys. You should already know that you have guys in that lineup, whether it's Quentin Grimes or it's Tyrese Maxey or Edgecombe or Oubre, Bona. You have guys in this lineup that you know are going to fight for you. You had guys available to you last night that you know were going to fight for you. You just didn't have it. Andre Drummond was battling on the boards last night. He came up with a double-double. You can't. Nick Nurse, I think, is too good a coach. I think he's been around too long. Like trying to make up for what you were doing last year. We're trying to dig ourselves out of what happened last year. You can't, man. So is the answer to that, Tyrese Maxey is going to play 45 minutes because we got to dig ourselves out of what we did last. No, the new culture, as far as I'm concerned, is already set. Once you have a new leader, the team takes on that personality, and that personality is Tyrese Maxey. That leader is Tyrese Maxey. There's no righting the wrong of last year. And if you try to do that, it's the classic quicksand analogy where the Sixers are going to be in that quicksand, and the more they struggle, the more they sink. And that, to me, is a disservice for how good this year's basketball team could be. I don't think this is some kind of wall that they hit. I don't think that this is going to be the beginning of them falling apart this year. Like, hey, we had a 4-0 season and then it all went to hell. No, I'm not going to look at it like that because I think this team is better. I don't think it's fool's gold what we watched in the first 4 games of this young season. They're 8 games in, by the way. I don't think it goes down like that. I still think that Tyrese Maxey is going to be an all-star. I still think VJ Edgecombe has a phenomenal shot at being the rookie of the year, if not the rookie of the year, one of the top 3 guys out there at worst. But certainly right now, the favorite. I still think Maxey, with the numbers he can put up in this off with him at the helm, I think Maxey could be a guy that you're going to be talking about in the MVP conversation at the end of the season. That's how good I think these guys are. But all that's going to go to hell if you're driving them into the ground 8 games into the year. You're trailing 23 points in the fourth quarter, 7 minutes to go. Yeah, I'm fine with pulling them. Oh, you want to quit? Yeah. Sounds great, especially in a game like that. If they would have held off the Bulls and won that game, I'd feel a lot different. But the way they played the entire second half of that game and then brought those struggles into the first quarter of this game against the Cavaliers, and then they had those struggles again in the third quarter, and then they couldn't get things right until about midway through the fourth quarter. They've already told you what they got left, and it's not much. So I'm fine with pulling them at that point. The other thing that I thought was wild is I know Trendon Watford and Tyrese Maxey are boys. I know they're besties and all that stuff. Tyrese Maxey has literally called Trendon Watford his second best friend. He's got a best friend and then a second best friend. Okay. His words, not mine. When Maxey was struggling through the first 9 minutes of the first quarter, Trendon Watford said to him, "Hey man, you're still in Chicago. I need you to be in Cleveland right now." And I give a lot of credit to Tyrese Maxey for acknowledging that and owning it, but I don't like that happened, that he couldn't shake off the loss to the Bulls and then come out and look at it as another opportunity to go out there and win one game of the back-to-back, so to speak. He started out struggling from the floor. I mentioned the turnovers, 4 turnovers in the first quarter, had 5 in the game, so only won the rest of the way, obviously. But I didn't like the idea of him needing to hear that from someone like, "Hey, man, this is Cleveland, not Chicago. Let's get it going." And he responded great in the second quarter. 14 points. Finished with 27. Had 9 assists. 36 minutes played. On a night like last night, you needed Tyrese Maxey to lead the charge. And unfortunately, right out of the gate, he wasn't able to do that. Later on in the game, he was able to do that. Quentin Grimes also had 27 points last night for the Sixers. And that was it as far as 20-point scores goes for the Sixers. Donovan Mitchell went off for like 46 points. He just had himself a night, and that was that. And like I said, every time the Sixers try to fight their way back into it, the best example of that is tying it at 72. The Cavs had an answer. I don't think this is, again, all of a sudden the Sixers just being a bad basketball team. I also don't think that Nick Nurse is saying it in a way, what he said about digging out of last year. I don't think he's thinking about this team making a turn for the worst. They got a tough schedule ahead, of course. They're going to face the Toronto Raptors, and they got the Pistons after that. They got a rough road ahead in the near future here. The Celtics again. I think you're going to see a much better brand of basketball going forward. Unfortunately, you do have another back-to-back Saturday and Sunday. This one going to be against the Pistons, and this one going to be against the Raptors and then the Pistons. It's going to be tough, but I don't think we're going to see the Sixers as bad as they were on this road trip. I wouldn't put much stock into this, but I'm not on the team. Tyrese Maxey, you could say it's an excuse. You could say it's his way of trying to explaining what happened. But according to Tyrese Maxey last night, this was the first road trip, and this first real road trip of the season. First back-to-back like this on the season, not the one they had previous, but the second back-to-back in total. They're finding their way as a team. I'm going to go ahead and hold on to that for my own sanity when it comes to the Sixers team, because I've seen them play a lot better basketball than what we've seen over the last 2 days. That's for sure. So yeah, Maxey just needs to continue to be the leader. And as I got into yesterday, Joel Embiid still not going to be playing in the back-to-backs anytime soon, as we know that pretty much. But this team also trying to figure out the two different ways to play with Embiid available and without Embiid available, I think also has something to do with the lack of consistency in scoring and the lack of consistency on the defensive end as well. I think that's got something to do with it, and that's something that the Sixers have to figure out. And it's similar to around the trade deadline when you hear a coach talk about how this team needs to learn each other and build that chemistry and understand everybody else's instinct or tendencies. It's the same type of thing, especially when I know these guys have played together, but Quentin Grimes and Tyrese Maxey aren't wildly familiar with each other's games. I mean, they were on the same AAU team or under 18 AAU team. But they're not wildly familiar with each other's games and how to play with one another. Throwing Jerry McCain back into the mix, and now he's out. He's managed essentially with the back-to-back. VJ Edgecombe being thrown into the mix here as well. This is something that the Sixers have to get used to, getting used to playing with one another again. So look, I'm not happy about it. These things do happen. I more so don't like the explanation of why it happened, or the excuse, if you want to call it that, the attempted excuse of why what happened. Got an off night tonight, off night tomorrow for the Sixers, back at it on Saturday and Sunday in the back-to-back there in South Philadelphia. Your Philadelphia Phillies. Jose Alvarado's option got picked up. He's going to be back with the Phillies in the bullpen, hopefully for a full season, pending any type of I need to lose some weight. You know what I mean? So I was happy to see that he's coming back. More momentum picking up around Nick Castellanos. I told you guys when I listened to Dave Dombrowski address the media at his end of the season press conference that there's a couple of things that I pulled from it. One, the number one thing was, if there was a guarantee you could make out of a press conference, it was that Nick Castellanos is not going to be back. When he wouldn't talk about really the future of a player that's still under contract and ended it with, "We'll see what happens," that tells you that he's not going to be back in a Phillies uniform in the upcoming season. One guy hit me up on social media because I remember tweeting that out, and they were just like, "Well, he said we'll see what happens in a lot of things." Yeah, but not with guys under contract. We'll see what happens. So now more coming up. I think it was Matt Gell that actually put it out there, just other teams being interested, other teams he could possibly go to. Scott Lauber also talking about it as well on his podcast from Inquirer.com, of course. It's just not looking good for a return from Nick Castellanos, and I'll tell you how I feel about it. I'm fine with it. There's some potential of Kyle Tucker. There's some potential of Cody Bellinger. And then the in-house solution, if you will, Justin. I was right. Justin Crawford getting an opportunity to be a corner outfielder for this Phillies team. We know Harrison Bader declined his part of the mutual option that he had with the Phillies. So thinks he can make more than $10 million. Thinks he can make a bigger contract than that. Good for him. Hopefully it's here in Philadelphia. But I think one of the bigger surprises that could happen in this offseason, I'd be somewhat surprised if the Phillies did add a corner outfielder and didn't look at Justin Crawford as if that is his spot to lose. I'd be surprised. Maybe they're looking at it as a platoon situation. I would doubt it. I would think they would want him to go out there and play. But I'm going to feel good about an outfield next year of Marsh, Bader, and Crawford. I wouldn't be shocked if the Phillies went that road. The one name that I'm a little surprised by, as far as one name more so than the other, I guess they don't feel like they could get much for Bryson Stott in a trade, but Alec Boehm could very well have played his last game with the Philadelphia Phillies. His name's being brought up in rumors. Other markets talking about him for interest and all that. And let's face it, you got a third baseman. I don't like living by this adage because you can get pop from many other positions, but your third baseman doesn't hit with pop. That ain't good. I know he drives and runs. I know he hits with runners in scoring position. I know he hits with runners in scoring position with 2 outs. But you want a guy that is going to go up there and have a good approach, not try to jump on first pitch fastballs all the time. Does it slightly less than Nick Castellanos, it feels like. But you certainly can't have both those guys in the lineup. Maybe if they do move on from Nick Castellanos, like I think they will, like most people think they will, maybe that balances things out in the lineup and they think they can keep Boehm for a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised I'd be very surprised if Nick Castellanos was back. I'd be a little surprised if they did move on from Alec Boehm. So those are a couple of the things that are facing the Phillies right out of the gate after the World Series in free agency and how they can make this club better going forward. Again, Jose Alvarado has been retained, so he stays here in Philadelphia for at least another season. That's the way that goes. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy. Get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation? Philadelphia Sports Nation. Enhance your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's phlsportsnation.com. Oh, man, I hope my voice isn't affected too much by just fighting the good fight. Speaking of fighting the good fight, good Lord. I haven't had a fever, so that's good. Just ever since the kids were sick, man. Woof. My wife had it a little bit last week. I rarely ever get sick, but now it's getting to me. It's getting to me. And I got a huge charity event on Saturday night for Fostering Hope. Great people. They raise money to take care of foster kids. And I host their auction every year, and it raises I'm not taking any credit for this. It's all them. They're incredible. But I come in and I host their auction. I'm not an auctioneer. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that, but I certainly need to be feeling good. So hopefully I'll be feeling good by then. Let's get into the chat check. April. What's going on, April? Sean Gillespie. Hello. Danny, what's popping? Have you seen my ponytail is your handle. Farzalicious. Okay. That's going to be the new name of the show. Thank you. Rye, Flyers play tonight. Union still don't know their opponent for round 2 of the playoffs. Wings open their season at home December 13th. Rye, thank you for mentioning that. It's now officially official. I will be back with the Philadelphia Wings for another season. I think this is my 4th season in total. Did it 1 year. Then I missed a year, and then the pandemic. And then they brought me back. This is my 3rd consecutive year back, my 4th year total. Love doing that job with the Wings, PA announcer. I'll be back with them. Just finalized everything yesterday, so look forward to doing that. Let's go Wings, baby. Let's go Wings. Sean Kilrain, hello. For all the haters, Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback in Eagles history to have these numbers in the first 8 games of the season. 65% completion percentage, 10 or more touchdown passes, less than 3 interceptions, and he's done it twice. He's elite. I know this seems to be a really tough code to crack for everybody, but he's elite. He is the quarterback we have waited forever for. So I enjoy it. That doesn't mean that I think he's perfect. That doesn't mean that I won't critique him if he has a bad game, Giants game. That doesn't mean that. It just means I am going to appreciate him and grade him at an elite level because he is an elite quarterback. And by Eagles standards, he's the greatest quarterback in the history of this franchise. Certainly the Super Bowl era. Teams that find ways to win eventually find ways to lose. Darkwing Ducky, I concur. Sean Kilrain, I love the Philadelphia Eagles rolling into Green Bay wearing the same combo they wore when they beat the Packers in São Paulo, Brazil. By the way, I did go back and look at it. Jair Alexander played in São Paulo, which I did say. And then I said I wasn't sure if he played against the Eagles in the playoffs last year. He did not. So just to confirm that. Cousin. What's up, cousin? Sean Gillespie, what's going on? Are the Sixers reverting to pumpkins early this season? Not yet, still too early. I agree, Sean. I don't think this is the clock striking midnight. Oh, the black pants. Yes, the black pants. I remember Connor Barwin one year. I think it was a Sunday night game against the Giants. I think it was the game that the Eagles shut them out like 27-0. And I really respected Tom Coughlin for this. The Giants got into field goal range at the end of that game, but they were being shut out. And Coughlin's like, you want to break a shutout, score a touchdown. I'm not bailing your asses out by bringing in the field goal unit. But I remember also in that game, Connor Barwin came out afterwards and said, you know, this might sound crazy, but in the black uniforms, I felt faster. I don't know. If it helps the psychology, go with it. Philly Dog. What's up, Philly Dog? 76ers have new people yet again in the same starting lineup. Or in the starting lineup. Players keep returning from injury and leaning too much on Maxey, sorry. But we are all shooting far better than last year and playing better ball. Yes, you are, Philly Dog. Yes, they are. And that's why I'm not going to just jump to the conclusion that the Sixers are cooked 8 games into the season. Nick Nurse sounds like a guy worried about his job, says Jason A. I didn't get that vibe necessarily, but you know who did, Jason? Keith Pompey. Honestly, I didn't get the vibe. Keith got the vibe. A guy worried about his job. I think that'd be dumb. I think it'd be real dumb. I think there's one guy that should be worried about his job, and that's Daryl Morey. There's one guy. Sean Cody Fuzzy, now that the trade deadline is passed, outside of Myles Garrett, who's one player you wish the Eagles would have made a move for? Outside of Myles Garrett. That's a good question. I mean, Trey Hendrickson, but apparently the asking price was pretty damn high. Sauce Gardner, I know he struggled and he's been hurt. He practiced yesterday. Would have liked to see that because as much as I think Cooper DeJean could play the outside, I'd rather give him a full. I mean, look, we know he can play the outside in base coverage. That's why the guy plays 98% of the snaps in total. So nickel and base. That's a nice jump from last year. But getting somebody like a Sauce Gardner, somebody that you know could go out there and play the outside corner position, so you know that Cooper DeJean can still be a great nickel corner, continue to be a great nickel corner, and then you have somebody who can go out there with confidence and play at a high level on a good defense. So that's one name that did get moved that I thought would have been nice to be here. He obviously went to the Colts. But really, that's it. That's it. Toronto Saturday night in. Did I say Friday? Mi scusi. Saturday is the Raptors. Sunday, that's the Pistons. They should wear black helmets too. Love it. Oh, shall you go Trey Wooten and Ward? All right, those are good. I like them. Eagles are wearing black helmets and black pants against the Packers. All right. Gotta take your vitamins, Fars. I do take. I take a daily. I take a daily because I don't eat fruit. That's not true. I enjoy an apple. Sean Gillespie. You're never completely healthy until your kids are in their 30s. That's pretty funny. It does feel like that, by the way. Jason A., I think Morey has done a decent job this year, honestly. I agree. I mean, look, he got VJ Edgecombe. He drafted VJ Edgecombe. He could have listened to me and taken Ace Bailey like an idiot. He's drafted really well from Maxey to McCain to Edgecombe. He has done phenomenally well in the drafting department. Oh, wait. Farzy, that 2004 game against the Packers was absolutely insane. The Eagles hung 47 points on them. Donovan passed 5 touchdowns. At halftime, it threw for 464 yards. Wow. 2004. Not the playoff. That wasn't the playoff game. I'll have to go back and look at that game. Philly Don 23. It's time to trade Joel. Thoughts on what they're going to do with Campbell now that they have Phillips and Dean? I think Campbell stays I think Campbell's going to be an edge rusher. I think Nakobe Dean is back to the inside with Zach Bond. And look, the Eagles are like I said, I know they added Brandon Graham. He's not going to be a savior. I think their best bet is Jahad Campbell being a guy to go after the quarterback. That's their best bet, with Nakobe Dean in the middle next to Zach Bond. As far as trading Joel Embiid, I don't see that happening yet. I think it could happen at the end of this year if he shows that he can be a 20-10 guy and a 8 assists, 7 assist guy. I think that you could trade him in the offseason. I don't think you're going to get a lot back for him, unfortunately. But I'm not pushing him out the door just yet. Basically because I just don't think it's going to happen. I would love to see this team just turn it over and give it to Tyrese Maxey and let this team develop and get away from the uncertainty of when Joel Embiid is in and when he's not. But look, if you would have told me midway through the summer that Joel Embiid would be ready to play this season, obviously on restrictions for back-to-backs and overall minutes, I would have said, oh, I'm thrilled that he's playing. And the fact that he's been able to get you 20 points a night for the most part, he's been getting more assists, is great. The fact that he can't jump over a credit card, as I've been saying this season, that's troublesome. I'd like to see him improve upon that, but I don't think Joel Embiid's getting traded anytime soon. Talking about damn near $400 million, you got to move. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Again, the Philadelphia 76ers are off till Saturday. They got a back-to-back Raptors and Pistons this weekend, so enjoy that. The Philadelphia Flyers are back on the ice tonight. They look to win their second in a row after their shootout win against the Montreal Canadiens. They play against the Predators tonight in Nashville, 8 o'clock puck drop in Nashville. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. My name is Mark Farzetta. I'll be back with you guys a little bit later today. 2 things. Locked On Eagle Squad at noon with me, Jason Martinez, Harry Mays, and Louis DiBiase. That's Locked On Eagles YouTube channel, so check us out there at noon. Also, later today, 4:30, I'll be on with Dan Cilio on Sills' program there. So check me out over there on Jacob as well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. My name is Mark Farzetta. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow.